we've talked baseball in this podcast, and I'm gonna bore our audience because we might get into some football discussion with our next guest, and that is Marco Radocaj with Balance HVAC. But first and foremost, Marco, we were talking earlier, my previous life was at Rivals.com covering high school football and college football recruiting and all that business. And I find out that you were a linebacker at Villanova. Can we just dive right into that and you tell me how you ended up playing
Yeah, exactly. Right.
They are in basketball, and in football, Marco's going to tell us why they're also storied. So there we go.
Perennial 1AA powerhouse, Villanova. A million years ago, a million knee surgeries ago, I played football at Villanova. That's what kind of got me into Villanova. I definitely wasn't smart enough to go there, but I was fast enough and could tackle well enough. So that always helps kind of wipe that slate clean. Played football there all 4 years, and then I also did track my senior year. So just I think I like to compete. It's such a meathead thing to say, and I always try to pretty up more than that. But is it just a meathead? I like to compete. So if we're going to play darts or football or javelin throw or air conditioning business, I'm going to compete.
Were you growing up, was that that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to play football. I'm going to play in the NFL. Was that, because we've talked to Licio Tamberlini, and it was his lifelong goal growing up in Venezuela and coming over to the United States was to play baseball. But I know it's different for everybody. What was your mindset growing up? Was it I'm playing football and that's what's going to happen? Or was it part of the plan kind of to get you where you wanted to go?
It was. I grew up in Williamsport, Pennsylvania, home of the Little League World Series. So it's a really great place 2 weeks a year. And then the other weeks of the year, it's a great place to be from. So I knew I definitely didn't want to stay there. So football was always a good opportunity. So my dad he coached in college. He coached all through high school. He's a football coach. And he kept me with a good perspective where it wasn't NFL or bust, because those guys that's a tough ticket to try to cash. So really it was just get decent enough grades to go play in college. And that was kind of how it all panned out. So, but it was something I was always thinking about. I'm definitely hyper-focused guy. So that was always kind of where I hyper-focused for the first 20 years. So,
were you ever focused on school?
School was a box that had to be checked to go play football. It was my dad said, unless you're running a 4.40, you can't have any C's. So I just made sure I was getting B's and A. Every now and then an A would trickle in out, whatever. But just try to get them B's. Just really wanted to just go play at a different level. So, yeah. So we were talking about football.
Where is Villanova? We don't know Villanova.
It's right outside of Philadelphia. So it's everything in Philadelphia is 45 minutes away. It's 45 minutes outside of Center City, Philadelphia. So it's definitely the suburb. It's not Philadelphia. It's Villanova. So it's definitely different.
But then you ended up is it Miami?
It's not Miami. That's funny. It's Vero Beach, Florida. It's a really small town. It's not Miami. It's in between Miami and Orlando. So you're an hour and a half from either of those big cities.
Oh,
but it seems like I think everybody wants a little more space, and it seems like it is picking up, and we're getting a lot of new faces, new people in town, which is really nice.
That's okay, because we're in Nebraska. I mean, John's traveled around, but we're in Nebraska, so everything is 45,000 miles away. And awesome. If it's on the east or the eastern coast of Florida, to me, it's Miami.
You can call it Miami. We can call it Miami. Let's go Miami, man.
That's what it.
Live in Miami.
It isn't. No, because I was actually down there somewhat recently, last year at some point, and I did make that mistake because I was north of Miami somewhere. It was fancy where I was. Ooh. And I said Miami, and they're like, no, this isn't Miami. Don't. Yeah, don't,
only people from Miami are really excited about Miami, it seems like. But I'm not, like I said, I'm not from here, so I'm still under that impression. When I see palm trees, or I'll drive over the bridge and I'll see a dolphin, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm on vacation. I'm in Florida. This is so nice. But I've lived here for 15 years now, but it's still oh, I love palm trees. So
what brought you down there?
Yeah. My wife.
How did you end up there?
My wife, Laura. See, I met her at Villanova, and this is I tell this story all the time, and I think people think I'm making this up, but she walked into a sociology class, and I didn't know who she was. I'd never seen her in my life, but it was just hey, that's your person, man. You need to go talk to her. And she wanted nothing to do with me. I guess, I don't know. She didn't study football players at the time, but She started trying
learned,
to.
it sounds like. She figured
came
it out.
around too. She started trying. She wanted to date my roommate, so I was her into my roommate, and then we started spending time together. But then here we go. So what's up? It all worked out.
Hey, sounds like you won. You won.
Yes, but as soon as I knew,
continually rub that in his face
all the time. He always knows. And it was the kind of thing where like I met her and I knew, hey, that's my person. And as soon as I met her, I knew, hey, I'm going to live in Vero Beach, Florida, because her whole family lives here and she loves her family. So that was in the cards, like from the jump too. So I kind of knew sophomore year at Villanova, I'm going to live in Vero Beach, Florida.
And what I love about your story is you go down, you get married, you go down to Vero Beach, Florida, and you've never worked in the trades in your life.
Never once.
And her dad is in the trades, and you're like, I'll do this. Like, I love that.
Sure, I can do it. I'll give it a whirl. And like honestly, like, and I say this, it's not like a hyperbole at all. Is that I didn't know a Phillips and a flathead, didn't know the difference. Like on my first day, I was like a helper, and I was with the maintenance guy. We were doing a maintenance, which I guess, like, if you don't know, it's a really basic thing. Everybody should know how to do a maintenance, I guess. And he's like, go out and rinse off the condensing unit, and I'm like hosing off the what are those things called where you lose power? A generator. I was like hosing off a generator. He's like, dude, what are you doing? I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, I tell you, I don't know anything. I know nothing. Like, so you assumed I knew something. I know nothing.
I need very explicit instructions of what you want me to do.
The story almost got aborted by you being electrocuted to death day one. Just
and I showed up in August in like steel-toed boots, like a brand new pair of never washed Dickies, like a big beefy tee, and I'm coming from New Hampshire, so it was like 108 degrees, and I had like no sunglasses, no sunscreen, like just a t-shirt on. I was like, I don't know about this. This might be a big mistake. But we drove too far to go back.
Something.
I did.
I mean, what was the progression? You know, because I grew up. My dad owned a roofing business. So, you start like, for us, it was like you're cleaning up the job site. And in your case, other version of cleaning, you're hosing off a condenser. Like, what was the progression from knowing nothing, marrying in, so to speak, or maybe dating in at that point to now running your own business? But like, what was the progression through the job?
It was like I said, for the first month, I don't think I really had any thoughts because I was just so overwhelmed with everything being so new, like new town, new temperatures, new people, new things. And then I got kind of in a routine where I was working with the same guy day after day. And when there's a lot of AC technicians, but when you meet like a true tradesman, it is impressive. It like you are blown away. And so as soon as I was able to kind of like, I want to be that guy. Like that guy knows a ton of stuff and is very good at everything he does. He speaks to customers really well. And then that kind of competitive thing is like, I want to be like that guy. And then I want to be better than that guy. And I want to just kind of keep pushing. So the progression was just spending time with him. And it's really, I think it's hard for a lot of people to like swallow their pride and learn new things and take in new things. But the nice thing is I didn't have to swallow any pride because I knew nothing. So I was like, hey, like, can you show me? Because I don't know a thing. And he was really patient. And like, the people like her dad, her brother-in-law, her brothers who run the company, they had to take that kind of risk on me. So thanks for their patience. But the real patient guy was Ricky, who was the guy that was showing me all these things because he could do stuff very fast and knew what to do right away. But like always took the time to stop and explain and show me and then answer questions that I would have after that, because you always kind of want to know the next step.
Why did he do that?
I think when you're really good at things like that, like a real tradesman or even like a coach is where like, I want to be someone else to be able to do this way. Because I think when you're genuinely, like I was genuinely excited, like I was overwhelmed and then got very excited that like, hey, this is an awesome thing. So I think they see that because at some point they had to be that way too, right? At some point, Ricky didn't know anything. Someone had to help him. So he has a Ricky has a Ricky, right? So you always want to, if you have one, you appreciate that person. And then you always want to make sure that you're leaving that door open for the next person who wants to get into it and really kind of sink their teeth into what it is.
Well, it's kind of an honor too. Like I know a lot of, even from starting this company and from meeting other people who have done things like this, like when you see someone that like has a good attitude and that wants to learn, it's like an honor to help them because they actually want to learn, like in showing other people, like versus trying to like push someone forward and they don't really care and they're just trying to like collect the paycheck and be like out the door immediately. Like those type of people, you're like, whatever, okay. I mean, you don't want them to give your company a bad name if they're working for you or something, but you don't. There's not a lot of like reward in helping someone that doesn't care. But when you can help someone or like offer someone that next like thing that they need to know when they actually care, it is rewarding. And I find myself now that I'm so, John knows how wildly successful and wise I am, that when,
it makes me laugh every time he says that.
I think that's funny at all. I thought you really appreciate
Thank you, Marco.
No, it's
you.
hilarious.
Yeah, man.
As you get to know Luke on the podcast, you'll find out how funny that statement is. No, I'm kidding. Go ahead, Luke. Sorry.
But in seriousness, like when you see them caring, trying hard, and you're like, oh, I actually know either what you need to do or the next area that you need to kind of like focus in or something, and you can legitimately offer something helpful, it is rewarding. But so I want to turn this, you clearly, or it's at least as far as I understand your story, did not go to trade school. Like you did not come out. And so there's like, is there any stigma there either way? And are you going to be the person that craps on trade school the way that I crap on studying business at a university? Because we could use a little bit of that on the pod, because we haven't got that yet.
Well, that's leading the witness.
Yeah, I'm just saying, if you want to, this is a platform to say.
Feel free to answer honestly, Marco, about what you think here,
So like my take on trade school was what you're asking. Like, I think it's like any school, right? Like when you're 18, 19, 20, 21, do you really know what you want to do? You don't, right? So you get, if you think like maybe I want to do a trade, you go to school, but maybe I want to be an accountant and you would go to college. But not everybody who goes to college to be an accountant is an accountant, and not everybody who goes into a trade school is necessarily for the trades. And I feel this way about like all school. I don't want to get like into the weeds with it, but information is like at your thumbs. It's like right here. It's about like anything you want to know, any way you want to learn it. If you want a video, if you want to read it, if you want to listen to it, it's all right there. So I think that like colleges and those types of things in general are going to just phase themselves out, because if you really want to know something and learn something, you can do it right away. You can do it right now, and you can get it like in depth as you ever could want it to be. And it's not like all the information's at the library at the college anymore, and all the trades, information is at the trade schools. You can go to YouTube, Google, it's all right there. So I think it's a good thing.
So
but it's
with the information,
I'm sorry,
anyone can get it. Like what?
Yeah.
No, I'm interrupted. You don't have to apologize when I interrupt you on this podcast.
I'm a big apologizer. I'm sorry about that.
Hey,
I caught that. I see what he did. Yeah,
we're with you. When you're hiring people, what are you hiring for? Like, are you hiring for knowledge added? Like when you look at bringing new people in, like how are you assessing them with in this world where anyone can access the information, but you need people? Like you want people, I assume you want to grow. It's hard hiring people now. Like how do you do that? And what are you looking for? Like what is the perfect person that you would hire?
You have to care. Like that's like the only prerequisite is that like you have to care. It was like you were saying earlier, like no one wants to take the time to teach somebody who's like, I'm just coming to work so I can get paid on Friday. Like and we haven't had to hire anybody since the original group, right? We're less than a year old. So we have the initial 5 guys, but these were guys that I've worked with in the past at other places. And it's like, the one guy said when we were talking about starting this, and if you'd be interested in coming in, he's like, I just want to say this, and it's weird, and I hope you don't get freaked out, but like, I love air conditioning. And it's like yeah, me too, dude. Like me too. Like people love that, and it's an okay to love that thing. And it's not like it's like appropriate love. It's like what you have to do. You go to work. There's good days, there's bad days, but you have to take some pride in that thing. You have to really kind of really care, and like it matters. And not because you don't want to get yelled at, and not because you don't want to get the customer upset. It's because like it's your job, and you did it, and there should be some pride in that.
Isn't it funny though, Marco? Like in a way, like one of the things that we've hit on in this podcast of people of a certain age is the connotation of the trades for the last 40, 50 years. Like, to where he had to preface his statement with, like, I don't want this to sound weird, but I'm really passionate about this thing that we do. Almost like he had to apologize for it. And to me, it's like, this goes back to that connotation, like when we talked to Chris Cotty, when Luke and I did, and then when I talked to Chris, who is has done this his whole life, and he was talking about growing up with cartoons where it's like the plumber looks this way, the HVAC guy looks this way, the handyman looks this way, and there's this connotation. And I'm like, man, every time we do an episode, I talk to somebody and it's like, I don't want this to seem weird, but I'm really passionate about this trade that we're working in. It's like, it's not weird. It's amazingly cool because there's all these things in the world that we need to have people passionate about to make it all tick. And I don't know why. I don't know. I guess this is more of a statement than a question, but I was just going to say, do you feel like that is part of that connotation, that he even felt the need to be like, yeah, this may sound weird, but I love what we do, just at its absolute core?
Yeah, I think it is weird. And I think it is a lot of like, this is how things have always been done. So like you kind of get stuck in that, like, this is how AC guys have looked for the last 50 years. This is what AC guys do for the last 50 years, right? So it's like, if you come in and you can be an installer or you can be a service guy, what if you want to do something else? There's a million different things. That is the tip of the iceberg. It is like such a giant encompassing trade, and to think that I do service or I do install, it's like, no, there's so much more to this than just that. So I think it's being able to like expand as the business, as the person hiring people, is that you have to have that vision where it's like, we don't want you to come in and just like check a box or fill a spot. Come in and like, the term we use is like, my daughter has this t-shirt company. It's called Let Her Cook, but it's let him cook. Like, you were like, let you go. Like if you think, if you want to do this, if you want to try something, if you want to try it a different way, we'll talk about it. But the answer is probably going to be yes. And we'll check on it and we can test things and make sure it did work the way you wanted to. But every time we do that, it'll happen again more and it'll be better. Things will be better that way. It can't be one person overseeing everything. Everybody has to kind of have those same standards and that same passion and energy for what they're doing. And like, we're gonna mess up 100%, but go try stuff. Because if we can do it better, that's great. That's because everybody can go sell.
We're not gonna be able to skip over this, which is that your daughter has a t-shirt company. Now I want to know, I want to know about it a little bit, but I want to know about you started this company, a year ago. Like you're, let's say, new into the fully owning a company, being in charge for some, that's a new thing. When did your daughter start this t-shirt company?
She has had the t-shirt company. My wife actually, she just filed it. So my wife is like, she's on Sundays like a billion times, right? She has like a nonprofit, but this is her newest one. We just started it, but it's a nonprofit. And she sells her shirts. It's one print. It's Let Her Cook with a little dot in the bottom, but all the proceeds go to female sports, women's sports. So like last year we bought the middle school basketball team warm-up shirts. We did stuff with the softball team she played on last year. So it's really just kind of real simple, but just like Let Her Cook. So there you go. And she's a big hooper, so it's like a basketball.
Where do we get these? Where does one score one of these shirts? We just got the website.
I don't know if it's live yet because I know we've been back and forth with the people who made the website. But I'll send you the link. It'll eventually be live. But we'll send you shirts.
I will make sure. I will make sure that the website is on the description on YouTube and we drop it in places. So yeah,
push it, man. Let's go. Let her cook.
That is so cool. My daughter just decided to start selling bracelets on Etsy. So any entrepreneurial thing,
let's go.
I'm all about. And I know Luke.
I'll get a bracelet. You get a shirt. We're done.
Perfect.
Done deal.
Okay. Now that we covered that aside, this is the part of the podcast where I reenact TikTok video that I saw.
And this is where I leave the podcast.
It's for John walks out. But in talking about being passionate about the trade and whatever, there was a comedian, but he was talking about how we're all like kind of like pretentious, stuck up, princes from 200 years ago. Like, I'll need the temperature up 1 degree, and it's all magic. Like none of us, I say none of us, meaning the rest of us in the world, we don't know how any of this stuff works. Like I've used the joke multiple times. Like you tell me, I know that the condenser is a part of an AC unit, I don't know what it does. I imagine that it does the opposite, like it condenses things versus, but I don't know.
Nailed it.
I don't
You're
know
good.
how many of it works, but I do know that that the fact that we can control temperature now is one of the things that has saved more lives over the last 100 years than any other thing. Like people used to
Oh my
die of
gosh.
heat, of cold, and when the power goes out, that's like the number one risk because it's actually the weather is sort of actually dangerous in the just practical, especially like you're on the coast of Florida. Let's say you're getting heat, humidity, like we get these heat waves. I mean, people don't think of Nebraska actually as like that hot, but it gets just horrifically hot, horrifically cold, and you get these wild swings. But that it is actually important. Like it's the 1 degree. Oh no, it's a little chillier than I want. We're arguing over the thermostat. There's kind of like an over-coddled almost joke in there, but at the same time, like being able to not suffer from the weather continuously is it is literally something that like kings did not have access to 200
No.
years ago, and
It's a
that
miracle.
like
It's a
we live
miracle,
in
man.
this like luxury that is important and compelling, and we should celebrate it, but we are experts at instantly taking things for granted and just
100%.
assuming that
Great
they're always
line.
going to work
Great line.
until
Dude.
they don't. Okay, so I'm going to keep talking about myself.
Please, go. You're killing it right now.
I
Let her
Let him
pre-ordered
cook.
a Cybertruck.
Let him cook.
Yeah.
We're talking about let's talk about my upcoming Cybertruck. So I ordered like when this Tesla event happened. I've never had a Tesla, but I've always wanted one because they're sweet. And it was, I remember sitting in our original company cam office like 5-6 years ago. And watching, it was like the day after this Tesla event, watching the event and being like, I'm getting like, that is sick. And then they smashed the
Yeah.
window and I was like, who cares? I'm getting one of those.
Still
And
getting it.
so
Still sick.
come last week, I got the message like, hey, your Cybertruck's going to be delivered. And my kids I got 11-year-old, a 9-year-old boy, girl. So 11-year-old boy, 9-year-old boy. His birthday is actually today. That's why I was late. And a
you go.
6.5-year-old girl. That's very important to her.
Good job.
She always tells people that.
Good
Because
job.
he's not sick.
Long story short, they are so pumped about the Cybertruck. And they ask me 4 times a day, have you heard? Are they, and it's like they're in a huff about it. And I'm telling them like, yes, it's going to be sweet. It's going to be so cool. But cool things aren't cool for very long. Like it's going to not be cool to you in about a week and a half. And it's just going to be the thing that gets us from like here to there. And we're experts in that. We do that everywhere, whether it's like a Cybertruck, whether it's the fact that we're not melting outside. And we're quite lucky to have people that are actual experts in it that actually care about it so that we can not sort of suffer here. And anyway, that's my monologue.
100%.
No,
And
yeah. Go ahead.
Luke, I was just going to say that there's no doubt that by the middle of September, there will be like 50 empty water bottles in the back of your Cybertruck. Like, no doubt. Like, your kids will be like, I don't care anymore. Like, it's like, luxury's worn off. And there's no big deal
so
anymore.
true.
I'm done with my Doritos, like, trash. Yeah.
Yeah, I watched one of them eat a sunflower seed the other day, and I was like, you have no sunflower seed privileges in the Cybertruck. This is a disgrace. You either figure out how to do this right, or you're gonna be like hanging your head out the window. This is not happening.
And if you wanted a difference between Luke and I, but it's the yin and yang aspect that makes us good friends, is that Luke is really jacked up about getting a Cybertruck. I'd be really jacked up about getting a 1972 K5 Blazer. That's what makes it great, is that we have vastly different opinions on things, but yet we're doing
You're
a
never riding in
podcast
my
together.
Cybertruck.
I'm
That's
Team
fine.
Cybertruck.
I don't want to.
I'm Team Cybertruck, man. That old car sounds like a lot of work, but maybe you're good at that. I don't know.
That's fine. I'll ride that boat alone. I do want to talk about challenges though, because what I think was cool about your story is sometimes we'll get on the podcast and we'll tell the story about, oh, well, I did this and I did this and I did this. And as someone who's been up and down and then back up again and down and back up again, for me, I felt like a big part, and I want to hear why you started Balance, but a big part was getting the 2 weeks notice that I don't think a lot of people talk about in their journey. How much was that moment inspiring to you, Marco, of where you are now? Like just being at a place, oh, COVID happened. We no longer maybe need, things, life happens, things change. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Given the 2 week. You mean when our install manager left at COVID? Yeah, that.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So for those who don't follow the balance story, so my family that owned the company that I started at bought a smaller air conditioning company in town. It was about a year into it, and then the only reason I hesitated on going over is that I had never installed an air conditioner. I was always a service guy, right? We were a service guy or an installer. So I didn't know anything about ductwork or installing units or any of that. But they had the old owner's son was going to stick around and run that install department. And we kind of got a good rhythm. Everything was going good. COVID hits. You can't go essential workers. No one wants us in their house. So I'm like freaking to begin with. And then that same morning, the old owner's son comes over and he's like, hey, I'm going to be a boat captain, and I'm gonna, this is like my 2 week notice. And I was like, okay, well, here we go. So after like a huge panic attack, you kind of just realize like this is what it's going to be. So I can either like hide from it, run from it, or go at it. So my family went to Georgia and isolated for 2 weeks up there, and then I isolated in front of the computer. And I just started trying to find some good information. I found a lot of bad information, but it led me to the Air Conditioning Contractors of America, or ACA, but they have these manuals. And to me, again, this is like I was a good service technician. I didn't really know a lot about air conditioning, but I knew how to fix them. So that was helpful and useful. But then you see that everything, like how you were saying earlier, like it's crazy that we can air condition all these spaces. You learn there's like a right way to do it. And people like wrote it down, and they're really smart people. And there's like a step-by-step procedure. And then how to even test and verify that what you did was correct. And to me, like I'm a big people pleaser, and like people pleasing is great, but if you can satisfy like the math with what you actually did, that is like the ultimate. You've like satisfied the universe, the whole universe, man. So like for instance, we just did this duct system, and I know not everybody likes to hear about the nuances of air conditioning, but we installed a 5-ton duct system, and it was like a crazy attic. We had to make all these different transitions and really make a lot of changes to how we thought it was going to happen to what actually was installed. But at the beginning of the whole thing, this energy rater gives us, hey, this is exactly how the air conditioner will work if you install it exactly like this. And then we install it, and it worked exactly like that. Like the pressures were perfect, the airflow was perfect. And to me, that is just like, it's not me, it's Carlos, it's Miguel, it's Jarrett, it's Guy, it's the people who are there every day who work. And sometimes it's those two, sometimes it's these two, but every person who touched that had the same ideas and the same thoughts and the same goals and the same purpose, and actually some passion with what they were doing. And you can't fake that, right? That's not like it's blowing cold air, like the homeowner's happy. That is like, we satisfied everything. We've made this, I don't want to say perfect, but it's to me, it blows my mind every time. We've been doing it like that for like 6 years, and it's still just like every time it's like, oh, that's awesome. We did it again. It's great. So I think that was.
Hey, you mentioned being a people pleaser. How has that either gotten in your way, or how have you had to overcome that on the path to let's say to starting this business, or over the last few years? Like how has that been a challenge for you?
It has been a challenge, and it isn't like a plug or anything, but company can really help with that challenge, because I think I have maybe a little of a reputation of overcomplicating or overthinking things, but the whole transaction between an AC company and a customer traditionally has been a nightmare, right? Like we show up to your house is hot, you didn't sleep good, you have to miss work to come home to meet us to let us in, and we go up in your attic, you don't see us for who knows how long, and we come out, and the longer we're up there, the more expensive it is. So we leave, we come after 3 hours, hand you this big bill, you pay it, it's cold again, great. But you don't know what we did. No one goes in their attic, especially in Florida, and I wouldn't recommend it. It's a nightmare out there. But we're able to send these pictures and show the craftsmanship of guys who didn't just come to work to go home, who came to work to do a really good job, and show them what you did. And it's that easy, where if we have like a long laid out job that's going to take a few weeks, they get daily pictures of the progress we're making, and they see the craftsmanship. It's craftsmanship. There's no other word to say it. I always try to think of different words. I don't want to beat one word into the ground, but it's what it is. And they're blown away. And they don't see that. And nobody will pay, like, they don't, if it's just cold air, they won't pay for that because, like, everybody can give you cold air. But we're talking about cold air, dehumidified air, clean air, like stuff that you would want your kids to breathe. Like, if we lived in a fish tank, your air conditioner is like the filter. So essentially, like, if you want a bad filter, you'll have bad water. Things might grow in the tank. The fish in the tank might get sick. But if you have a good filter, everything's clean, everything's clear, the fish are healthy, and it's the same thing. It's like a parallel dynamic.
So, like, as a people, what I think you're saying, as a people pleaser, it's kind of hard to charge people money when they don't get it
Yes.
or want to pay you. Like, is that so? The idea, like, how you've one way it sounds like you've overcome charging people, or kind of that, like. That it's hard to just say this is the price or whatever, is that you can show the work.
Yes.
And Company Cam helped. But, like, just like in your own head, do you feel like now you have a hesitation around charging people, or just like, hey,
No.
this is the price. It's a fair price. Why
No,
not?
because
Like, what beyond showing them, like, what had changed in your mind?
Is the more that you learn about how expansive the air conditioning trade is, it is like, there's all these supplements to have, like, healthy eating and like ice tubs, saunas, all these things that you can do to manipulate your body to be healthy and comfortable. You're inside 90% of the time. Like, I think I learned that like 2 years ago. I still can't. It's true. Like, I sleep all the time. I'm inside. I go inside to work. I'm inside. So if you're breathing bad air all the time, that adds up. It's like, and it's that easy. And also, we also had an experience where we moved into my wife's house that she grew up in Vero Beach. And her parents lived there prior, and they were two retired people. They're older. They keep the temperature at like 78 degrees. And sometimes we go over on Sundays and Saturdays and have family dinners. It was always fine. But once we moved into that house, our family of 6, who's doing laundry all day, as soon as the sun comes up to sundown, opening the doors, setting the air conditioning real low because we like to keep it at 73. So now we're changing the dynamic of how the house is used. 2 of my 4 kids started getting very sick, like all the time. Like, bad allergies, like runny noses, missing school. Our newborn at the time, my wife said he doesn't seem like all of our other kids. It seems like there's something almost wrong with him all the time. So we found some mold in our house. It wasn't active, but while we were testing to see if it was, we stayed at a condo. And as soon as we were at that condo, my daughter and my youngest son were like, he stopped crying for the first time in his whole life. He's like, I can breathe. So it matters. You know what I mean? It doesn't, and maybe you're good with it, but maybe your partner's not, or maybe your grandkids are not. But like, indoor air quality is paramount, especially now with the way they build houses. There's not fresh air introduced, and there's not really great filtration if you don't plan for it. So it's things where I don't feel bad. There's no people pleasing, because what we do is I know we're good at it. And I know that you'll be satisfied when we're done.
You connect it to the fact it matters.
It matters,
it matters.
Dude. Like, it matters.
And you can easily make that connection that it matters. And I think of that in when we hire new salespeople, or we hired 6 salespeople last week. And when you're selling something you believe in, like I tell them, you will develop conviction. You'll talk to our customers like Marco, and you will come to actually really understand the value of Company Cam, and then you will be able to sell it effectively, because you won't feel like you're just trying to take money from people. You will know that you're actually helping them, and that you don't feel bad about selling something when you're helping someone, when you know that you are, like when you really actually believe that. And that's what I'm hearing from you. It's like, you really believe it. You really believe that this is making a difference, that this is good for them. You're not, there's not a cheap swindle part of this transaction. It's real. They're going to breathe better. They're going to be healthier. They're going to be more comfortable. And that actually matters. And therefore, when you hand them the bill, you can do it with like a clean conscience and feel like this is just a fair trade.
Yep. And if you're not able to show them the craftsmanship and the thought and the care that goes into that product, now you're getting an invoice, and no person is pleased with an invoice. You've never been like, great, thank you, I love this. It's the product. And then the invoice is just part of like, I have this great product, I got to pay this, no big deal, because I love this. And if we just go up in your attic and have limited interaction, you're hot half the time we're there, and then you get an invoice and you don't know what we did, that's not pleasing. But when we tell you what we did, we show you what we did, we explain how it works, and then we test it and verify that it works the way that I sold you this bill of goods, I feel great about it. Like, no hesitation. And even when we do certain things, like put dehumidifiers in encapsulated attics, people are like, oh, I don't know. Like, it's a lot of money to keep my attic conditioned. I'm like, you would be the first person we put one in who would complain, because we have never had one single complaint, because it just works. And then you show them all the information that, humidity, you're healthier in humidity. Allergies don't make as bad in humidity. Your viruses don't stay as long as in a drier house. So there's all these health benefits that, like, the numbers present themselves, they make sense. But then when you live through it, it's a whole different beast. It's a whole different thing. So then you have this, hey, I've done this. I've been here. My daughter was sick for 6 weeks in a row. We didn't know why. We were taking her to take medicine, going to doctors and specialists, and none of it worked. But we, sealed some holes in the spray foam, put a dehumidifier in, and she can live at home now. So it all adds up.
Wow. And obviously that's the genesis for, you kind of explained my question, for you wanting to do balance the way that you're doing it. How much do you see now looking forward? How much do you see, because I know it takes a long time for anything to kind of catch and, expand itself, but like, how many more Marcos are there out there that maybe they didn't need a personal story to look at HVAC the way you do, as not just being temperature, but actually clean, healthy air? Like, do you see that being a trend in the industry? Is it still a slow moving thing? I guess, where do you see that?
It is slow moving.
So
it's definitely
vital. Yeah.
It's a slow moving thing. And I think a lot of that is just contractors doing the same thing over and over again, because for a long time it was like, we just want you to fix our air conditioner or put in a new air conditioner. But like, now you need to expect something from the person putting your air conditioner. It can't just be cold air. Like, that is like the slowest bar you could ever present. Air conditioners do that, like, by nature. Like, I'm not a super handy person, and I could install an air conditioner that would blow cold air at your house, done. But it wouldn't be as good as what the guys are doing, and because they understand how the big picture works and can do these things with that intention and do it on purpose. And it's not the fastest thing in the world. It's not the least expensive thing in the world. It's not the least expensive thing in the world, but it is worth its weight in gold. And when you're in the houses, especially the ones when we get like to do a complete attic restoration, like, you feel it, you can hear it. There's everything about that house is inside. Everything about that house is controlled, and every piece of air that is moving because you did it on purpose. And it's like, you can tell when you go in those houses.
Absolutely. One of the last questions I want to ask you, Marco, that you brought up that I thought was really cool, was you were talking about the people that you worked with in the past that joined you at Balance, which to me is such a great indicator of who you are as not just somebody who's leading and managing, but as a person. Why do you, I'm just curious. I mean, you feel free to gloat about yourself. I think, you deserve a lot of credit, but like, why do you think they followed you to a new venture? Cause I know for everybody, there's some risk involved, right? Of doing something new, but like, why do you think you've had those relationships that has sustained over multiple entities?
Yes, I think for two reasons. One, I really do see the best in people. And I think that there are a lot of people that are like me and the guys that work here that love air conditioning and just haven't had the opportunity to go somewhere where they get put in a position to succeed. They're put in a position to do a job. And that job might not be what's best for them. They might be really good at interacting with customers. They might be really good at coordinating, orchestrating an install job, but they might not be good at the job you want them to do. So I do really have, like, probably maybe sometimes too much my way of a thing, but I just believe that people innately want to do a really good job all the time. And I've been lucky enough to find those four guys that are working here now. And I know that there's others out there, but the guys we got here are great. And then two, I think there's a lot to be said where I always think, I don't compare myself to Coach K, but similar in that, like, I don't think when you see like Coach K standing next to LeBron James and Kevin Durant, like, something's different. Like, those guys are 7 feet tall and their arms are 8 feet tall and they can shoot and run and jump. And Coach K is like shorter and like older, but he can't do what they can do, but he understands what they want to do and it matters to him and he can help them get in that position to succeed, but can't do it, can't play basketball. And I can't install an air conditioner. Like, all the time, if I'm talking with the customer and they're like, will you be the guy putting it in? I'm like, no, because I care too much about this job. You would never want me to put this air conditioner in your house. I didn't put it in my own house. but these guys did, and they're really good at it. So I think that's a really nice dynamic where there's times where I ask guys like, hey, can we do this? Like, does this work? Like, because I need to know what you know, because I can't do this. I don't have that vision.
Right.
I've never built anything. I don't like putting holes in drywall. So
it's one of the biggest misconceptions that I've seen over any industry is that people think to be the manager of something, you have to be the expert of that discipline. Meaning, like, if I'm going to be the manager of this group that is really good at these very technical things, I have to be the expert at everything they know, or I can't lead them, or I have to be able to do what they do on a daily basis to lead them. When sometimes you just need a great leader. They don't need to be the expert in that field. They just need to help clear roadblocks, open doors, be able to put them in a position to succeed. So yeah, I love that answer. We also end with this 2 questions. Marco, I guess 1 question. When you hear the term good contractor, how do you define that? How does Marco define what it means to be a good contractor?
Ooh, that's a great question. A good contractor is going to be someone who is passionate about what they're doing and is very honest throughout the process, because any contracting process is never as easy as the homeowner hopes it's going to be. And you need to paint the very realistic picture of how this is going to go, all the work's being performed, and then what is going to happen afterwards, because things may be different and you need to explain that. And I think that's something that gets lost a lot. I think it's a huge thing. So that was the 1 question, right?
Yeah.
The contractor was question 1.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess I'll throw another one in. We used to let Luke vote on if, he was a good contractor or not that we had on as a guest, but they're all good contractors. So I'm scratching it. I'd like to do this. We have a lot of contractors that listed a good contractor, and some are at different phases of their career. I would love to know if you could go back and tell your younger self, or you were giving advice to somebody who maybe is 5 years behind where you are today, or things you learned along the way, or similarly to you, jumped into the trades not having any background in it. What's something maybe you learned along the way that you'd be like, hey, I would have loved to known this then, so let me throw this out there for you now.
And this is such a bummer, because I don't even know if 39-year-old Marco would take this advice, and I've kind of had to learn it at School of Hard Knocks. You got to read. Like, reading is like, and how silly is that, right? But like, it's just take the time, and it maybe not even read, but like expand and get information, because it's like knowledge is power, and that's like so trite and old, but it is still true. And that's why it's trite and old, because it's been around for like 5,000 years. Knowledge is power. It is that easy. And we're at a time where, like, if you don't know something, it's a choice. So if you want to know something, it's also a choice, and you can go learn about it and find people who are also okay with that, and just be open with the fact that you love air conditioning, and don't be shy about it. Like, be proud about that. Stand up.
Yeah. I love it, man. Marco, this was awesome, man. Thank you so much.
No, I appreciate it. This was a blast. Thank you.